Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you're watching, wherever you're watching from. This is In the Middle. My name is Mike, and together with TJ and our producer, Kyle. How's it going, guys?
Hey, doing great, Mikey. Again, always a pleasure to be here, bud.
Always love having you guys, especially since you're a co-host and staple on this show. You know, I'll just make sure that people realize that I actually appreciate you doing this show with me. I figured first off, baseball is back, and I'm going to say,
I know.
Go D-backs. I was hoping you would wear some Yankee gear so that way I can replay a little clip.
Well, you did tell me you were wearing D-backs. Great co-host.
Check your text. Wait, what?
You didn't tell me that we were doing this. I didn't know. I'm wearing a plain gray T-shirt. I could have easily thrown on 3 Yankee jerseys.
Whoa. All I got to say is check your messages because even Colbie responded.
Oh, did you? Did I mess up Colbie? Oh, no, we can't introduce Colbie yet. She's just nodding her head saying I screwed up. But anyways, we do have someone else on the show. We got to get to some. We're first going to get
we're going to get the comments.
Then we're going to get into the rest of the show. But deniability is what I'm going to play. I didn't have my phone on me. Anyways. So let's hop into the comments. So we're going to hop into a comment from Miriam. She seems to be on every single week. But she also brought up the whole thing, and I'll skip a little bit of and get to the meat of it, is that I believe you guys should be looking into the psychology or the mental state or stability of the person who commits the crime. So obviously this goes into the whole gun control aspect of our last show. What do you feel about that, Mikey?
Well, I mean, it's definitely something to look at. Mental stability, as I stutter on my words, is something that is a serious matter in the United States.
And Mike, I think we talked about this, which was we were going to dive a little bit into this because we brought it up with our Black Lives Matter thing. I brought it up, part of the gun debate also. But with these shows, trying to keep them to an hour, we did decide pick and choose what we want to keep in. We actually had a whole part of the show where we talked about global statistics and how we were comparing things. And then we also talked about mental health. So we did a lot of pullback because obviously you can talk, Kyle even mentioned in the last episode, you can talk about gun control for 4 or 5 hours. We're just trying to give snippets. We're just trying to stick to the meat and potato things, understand why we feel this way. We can't delve into every single little thing. So again, thank you, Miriam. We're talking about future episodes of when we come back to gun control, because obviously a lot of these topics are too big just for 1 hour. We will come back to these things where we're going to be talking about mental health. So that is definitely an important one. Mikey, did you have any comments you wanted to throw at me?
I got to throw at myself. I have to throw them at myself because I got a couple here that were kind of directed towards me. The first one,
all of them are directed towards you.
Well, most of them, yes, valid point. I got Jeremy Cohey here, who's a very good friend of ours from high school, and first off, when you guys leave messages, let's try to summarize. Wait till the end of the show to post your comments, so that way it's not spread out. Reason being,
every time something came up, he was like, click.
No, it's not even that. Is that I'm finding out, like, I only got initially, TJ brought up to my attention that there was more than one comment from Jeremy. And apparently from what I'm seeing is that if you post once from an individual, it seems like I get that first initial notification. But then if you keep posting, they stop notifying me. So I'm missing those other posts unless I go directly to the website. So let's try to keep it all into one big comment and then submit. But anyway, moving on from that. Jeremy, I don't recall, and maybe I did, and I'm just not recalling, but I never passed judgment on the looks of a gun. I have no desire to shoot an AR. I've shot guns before, which is actually my answer to my next question to Marshall. Yes, I've shot guns before, and they don't thrill me. What actually thrills me more when it comes to weaponry is bow and arrows and tomahawks. I feel that that's more sporting. That's just my opinion. I'm not going to be able to provide facts of why I feel that way, but that's my opinion based on that. But as far as the look of the gun, I don't recall, and if I did, I may not have described what I was trying to say correctly. But my big beef on the guns is, and I'll reiterate what I said at the end of last week's show, was it's not a matter of the type of gun. I want to stop you being able to pump 60 plus, 40 plus rounds into the air or into a crowd of people. I want to stop you being able to pump that many bullets within the matter of 60 seconds. That's what I want to stop. I don't give a crap what the gun looks like. That's my point. I, again, don't recall saying anything on that, but that's my stance on it. Pistols, if you could shoot 100 rounds in 60 seconds with it, cut that out too.
By the way, I'm so glad you brought up from 700 down to 100. Good job, Mikey. More realistic numbers.
Actually, well, if you depending what
no, it's not dependent, Mike. It's really not depending, Mike.
No, it is.
A semi-automatic cannot shoot up to 700 rounds a minute. It's
well,
and that's why a lot of people are explaining and saying you should go to the gun and range and shoot, is because if you notice when you go to the gun range and shoot, if I gave you 700 rounds, Mikey, and put you in front of a gun range and told you fire away, you would not get close to 700. Even if you tried your hardest, even if you try to switch out rounds, it is definitely, even if, let's say if you can get 3 rounds a second, 3 rounds a second, that's still only 180 rounds, Mikey.
Well, I'm going to tell you that you might want to talk to the FBI about their stats on the Las Vegas shooter. And if I knew you were going to rebuttal with that, I would have brought up the information. But the Las Vegas shooter, from the reports, 700 rounds per minute. That's the fact. That is what happened. So I'm going to ask you, and this is going on to the topic, and maybe we're going to have to readdress guns another time. Because I definitely want to get onto the coronavirus, but my noggin gets scratched and says, well, you're telling me 700 rounds can't be shot, but yet the Las Vegas reports and all the FBI reports on this Las Vegas shooter says that that's how many rounds that he shot.
Well, but that's why you're talking about that, but then you're also not talking about that's what led to everybody going, 1, that was incorrect and false. 2, was there a second shooter? Were there other people part of this? Because if that number is correct, there's no way. I can argue this all day long. Any person who owns a gun can argue this fact. You can't shoot 700 rounds. Just that simple.
Well, I got to say the FBI is completely wrong in their information, but we'll definitely address it.
I mean, if it was an automatic, but you're stating that he had a semi-automatic. If it's automatic, I agree with you 100%. If it's semi-automatic, I mean, you literally have to do this 700 times. Look, Mikey, I can't even do this 700 times in 1 minute. This is how much you have to do this in a minute. Can you do that, Mikey? Just sit there. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Anyone? You got a clock? Kyle, clock me. Clock. Ready? Am I at 30 yet?
Well, you also got to count for reloading the mag.
Oh yeah, hold on, wait.
So TJ, so you go ahead and say that, but how did this shooter shoot 700 rounds in 1 minute?
That's the debate, Mikey.
That's not a debate. That's what FBI is saying. Numbers. All right. Well, we're going to get to the FBI and all that. We're going to go on because we're going to end up debating, and I really want to get on coronavirus.
Yeah,
I don't want to get stuck on that.
No, so obviously we'll skip to the last thing with Marshall, which was bringing up was why he's saying go to the range and stuff like that, which I do agree. And then TJ, the mayor of St. Louis, was out in the people's information addressing, and that's what caused the Black Lives Matter march that headed to the mayor's house, which was on the private property. The media had nothing to do with it. So the first thing I have to say about that is I didn't know that. I didn't know that either. The mayor was ousting these people, and that's why they started the Black Lives Matter move, why they did that. But again, Marshall, you're incorrect where you said media had nothing to do with it, because that wasn't the point that I was actually stating at all. I said media turned Ken and Karen, the gun couples, into these crazy lunatics that were just, pointing their weapons for no reason. And that was my argument. It wasn't the fact that media brought Black Lives Matter out there and that caused the situation. I stated that was the case. I also stated that people seem to be a little bit more on edge when Black Lives Matter protests show up because of the media coverage on how violent a lot of these protesters have become. So you're watching all these. I'm nervous. I live in Chicago, and I've seen what the destruction and the violence that has happened. That if I see people protesting, I'm telling you, my guns are ready to go. I'm not going out there Rambo or Ken and Karen, but I'm going to be careful, right? And that's kind of the point of what I was making. So to say that media had nothing to do with it, you literally completely spaced what I was talking about to focus on what you wanted to talk about, which is a normal liberal move. But we still love you. We'll get you. I'll let you slide on that a little bit, but we'll bring it back. But anyways, last but not least, Kyle again. You just kept doing you, boo-boo. That was from Marshall. And then once again, Valentino Lopez is really impressed with Kyle's pop-ups are better than ever. So 2 big shout outs to our producer there. Thank you for all your hard work, like always, Kyle.
It's a good thing Kyle is such a good editor,
He's the best. I love that guy. He saves me so much work that I get to just take credit for. So, all right, Mikey, what's going on with the show today? So that's on comments. So thank you all for commenting. Yes. We're going to get to the show. Continue your comments. Continue filling up. You guys got us into a little bit of a debate there, but that's what the whole purpose of these things are for. Continue shooting out your stuff so we have stuff to talk about. Now we'll move on to Mikey.
What about me, TJ? I'm just kidding. We've got a special topic today. It's something that I think that it's, as you all know, it's about coronavirus. This, I think, episode is going to be more of like an interview. Of course, we're going to speak our opinions and whatnot, but I kind of got really excited about this episode.
Yeah, so excited.
So excited.
So excited.
In fact, it was funny because as soon as we mentioned it, I was like, we should do a subject on coronavirus. And TJ goes, all right, yeah, you know what? That's a good topic. And I go, okay, we're going to get Colbie. And he goes, well, yeah, Colbie is a good idea, but do you know any other nurses? I'm like, no. We're getting Colbie. So this is going to be awesome. I'm excited to have Colbie because she is a critical care nurse that's within the ICU unit, fighting this on the front lines. And this, I think, is going to be more like an interview to give everybody a perspective of what's actually happening. We see things on the news and whatnot, but I feel that unless it hits home, people don't realize the severity of it.
Look at that face. That is the best face to freeze out on, by the way. So Mikey kind of left the party, so I'm going to continue this, and I'm going to invite our dearest friend Colbie onto the show. Welcome, Colbie.
Hi.
Oh, Mikey's back, I think.
Mikey's back. I got lost.
You completely froze out for like 10 seconds, and you had the best face. So we're leaving that part of the show. Don't even argue with me. It's in.
He had a good O face. It was like a coronavirus.
He was like the corona.
Is it the Tucker Carlson face?
But welcome, Colbie, to the show.
Hashtag fail.
This is the silliness of our show. Yes, we are not professionals.
Yes. I don't know how far you guys got on me, but I appreciate you coming, Colbie. Thank you so much. If you didn't hear, she is on the front lines fighting coronavirus, which is why I'm excited to have here. Beautiful, perfect. Just reiterating. So anyway, Colbie, I want to ask the first question here, and it's something that actually my aunt and uncle had asked me to ask you, and that is, are we fear-mongering over this? Or, I mean, I know, and maybe you want to reiterate to our viewers that you don't really watch the news and whatnot, which is also another reason why I wanted you on the show, is because your opinion is unbiased. It's based on what you see on the front lines. So based on what you have seen, do you feel that this is fear-mongering, or do you feel that this is a legitimate panic, per se?
So based on what I'm seeing and how my work environment and just in general my day-to-day life with going to work has changed dramatically, I would say no. Like you said, though, I don't watch the news. I'm not even part of a political party really per se, so I don't have an opinion in regards to that stuff. But work is it's almost devastating for us all, me and my colleagues, to go into work every day. We're all just kind of blank-faced most of the day because we're so stressed out and overworked right now. So I would say no.
So on to that is obviously we all hid inside, and then we were told that obviously we had to flatten out the curve, but we've seen recent spikes. So kind of in your viewpoint in the past couple months, how has it been in the ICU and dealing with these cases? Like, did we hit a slow part? Has it climbed up recently? And a little bit of, again, why is it climbing up?
So when all of this first started happening, I remember we created a unit in our ICU that was just for COVID, and, we would have 2 or 3 nurses there, but we would have 2 or 3 patients as well. And, it was okay for a while. And at first it was almost exciting for us as nurses because we were like, oh, wow, our job is really simple right now because there's not as many patients and not a whole lot going on. But I think what we all didn't realize is that was just the beginning and it hadn't really gotten there yet. And so basically the last month and a half to 2 months, it's been the opposite. We've had more patients than I didn't even know we could have this many ICU patients in our hospital. And we have had to hire 27 plus travel nurses because we have no staff. So it's just been absolutely insane. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Mikey. I mean, I don't want to continue. I can ask 101 questions, but I figured we'll go back and forth. Mikey, you got anything else on this?
Well, to be honest, I mean, we both, when we did our pre-shoot, we had a lot of the same questions. But I mean,
all right. Well, I guess I'll just continue.
Yeah, go ahead.
So obviously, one of the biggest things is, especially in today, and why we're talking about COVID today, is that we did see a spike, right? So there's a bunch of questions I'm going to throw your way. Obviously, I'm going to throw out, our opinions and our mindsets. But the whole purpose of this was to do our best to control the curve, right? Was obviously if everyone got exposed to it, it would happen exactly what you're stating right now. You guys will get overwhelmed. And people like Mikey, by the way, who has pre-existing conditions who need to be taken care of, are at risk because the beds are filled, the ICUs are filled. So the whole point of all of this was to stay inside. Everybody was going to get it. That's my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong about this, Colbie. Everybody was going to get it. This virus was going to spread. It was going to hit. But people who needed medical treatment can get medical treatment if we flatten the curve. So with your perspective, it's kind of what I'm trying to get at too. Is that, were we doing that? Were we accomplishing it? And what has been causing that spike? What is causing people to get back in there? And I mean, are you guys even tracking that? Because right now the big debate is, we just had a huge past month riots. And me and Mikey have talked about this a lot, where we're like, we understand the riots. We understand why they're happening. Let me rephrase that. We had protesting.
Protests, yeah.
We had protesting. We understood what it was for, but me and Mike were definitely in agreement. It's like, well, we also have something that's even more serious in my eyes because it has a higher death rate and it's more detrimental to our economy, our lives, is this COVID-19. And everyone seems to be ignoring that. So on your viewpoint, what do you think is really causing this spike, or what is happening? Did we bring it down? Did we try to flatten it and then it just skyrocket? I mean, what's going on here?
So I definitely, it was good in the beginning and we were flattening the curve, as we say. And I do think you're right. It does seem like everybody's probably going to get it. I'm not going to get into the vaccine thing, but I guess the hopes is that there will be a vaccine, so that way everybody doesn't have to get it,
Well, we can get into that a little bit, but let's stick on that.
Yeah, I was going to.
I want to get into the vaccine after it.
But I think that's the ultimate goal, right? Was to give the professionals time to try and create something to help us as a society. because right now the hospitals, at least where I am, are not doing okay. We don't have enough beds. And the idea was to give people a fair chance, because this is not something, it's a very serious sickness. And so it's something that takes weeks, if not more than that, to recover if you are someone that gets critically ill from it. And when you don't have beds and we have too many patients, then we get to where we can't give people that time, and we have to just put them on comfort measures and let them go if their odds are not, in their favor, in order to have room for other people. And that's what we were trying to avoid. And now here we are with that very issue. So.
And when did that start happening? Did that happen 2 months ago, or was that recently in the past 3 weeks where you guys started reaching that maximum capacity?
I think it's definitely been within the last month, but every single day that I go in, I'm actually shocked at how much worse it is. It's just, we're pulling all the resources that we have, but we don't have enough staff, and these patients are sicker than we're used to taking care of, especially with minimal staff. So it's definitely, the last month has been the worst, but it's just getting worse every day.
So one more question on obviously the rise in the spike, and then obviously we'll get to other questions like the vaccine and the economy and all that stuff. But one more thing on the spike. How are, everyone keeps saying it's not the protesting. Well, how are you guys in these situations as nurses in these hospitals tracking that? Because my understanding is that there isn't tracking. This isn't, here's a question here. You swipe somebody, go, oh, you were protesting. How can we just, and one of my biggest things, obviously, is I'm not trying to nail down the protest, but we need to figure this out, right? We need to figure out what's causing this spike, and is it good for us to continue protesting, or should this be put on the back burner until this COVID-19 kind of gets passed? How are we tracking these people who are protesting and the COVID-19 related issues?
So, to be honest, like I said, we're very limited resources. We're all kind of overworked right now in the hospital. So from my standpoint, usually when I get patients, they come in respiratory distress in the ER, and they kind of come to us quickly, and they're already on a ventilator. And so they're not really able to answer those sorts of questions. And, unfortunately, I don't know a percentage, but a lot of our patients are dying. So then I don't know if we'll even really know if it has to do with the protest, or, there is the fact that when I've been going out, and I even just scrolling through my own friends on my Facebook, a lot of people are just living their lives per the normal. So whether it's the protest or everything, the way everybody's kind of reacted, a lot of people didn't really take it seriously. So now we have exactly what we thought was going to happen, and what we were trying to prevent from happening is now happening.
Right? All at once. And I think that's kind of one of our biggest concerns that me and Mikey had, which was, listen, we were all down for flattening the curve, even though obviously me and Mikey, we'll see difference when it comes probably the economy and stimulating and getting things back up to normal. But we all agree, flatten the curve, taking things on. And when all this protests happened, me and Mikey both looked at each other and goes, we get it, but we're going to have issues afterwards.
Exactly.
And then suddenly we have all these issues, and it seems, and I know you don't watch the news, and this is why we're asking you these questions, is because it seems media is now just bypassed. Oh, it wasn't the protesting. It wasn't that wasn't the issue. And it's just really hard to look at these numbers. And I'm pretty sure as we're talking, I'm going to be posting numbers where you just see where the level hits, and then it just literally 2 weeks, right? Because also, one more thing, just correct me if I'm wrong. It's a 2-week curve, right? By the time someone's actually exposed to it to where they actually have symptoms to be in the hospital is about 2 weeks.
So that's what everybody is saying. In the hospital, we're just kind of in survival mode. I don't know what CDC and everything is saying right now, and all their research is kind of outside what I do. But that's
and
what
it's constantly changing,
and it's changing every day. But I did have a patient that unfortunately worked at one of the hospitals locally, and he was exposed, and he tested, and he was asymptomatic, but he tested positive. And I believe it was about exactly 2 weeks later when he ended up having shortness of breath and respiratory issues and coming into the hospital. And by the time I was taking care of him, I don't even know if he survived because he was in very bad shape. So you just don't know.
So
Mikey, I think you wanted something to say.
Yeah, actually, just to kind of touch on something, because I hear a lot of people always say, "Oh, you can't listen to the CDC because the CDC don't know." I'm not saying that you're saying this, TJ. I'm saying what other people are saying. But I have to scratch my noggin and ask them. And for the people who are asking this question, I want you to really think about this. The things change as we learn about things, and that's exactly what Dr. Fauci has said. This disease is something that is completely unknown up until we found out it existed. So I cringe in a sense when I hear people, outside people, turn around and say, Dr. Fauci don't know what he's doing. He told us that we didn't need masks, and now he's saying that we do. My first question to you on that is, when people complain or want to be rebellious about the masks, how does that make you feel, knowing that you're on the front lines, that now some of these people, maybe even most of them, weren't even wearing masks to try to protect themselves or others? And I think most cases have individuals in between the ages of 20 and 44, which is still the partying age. So, at that point, how does that make you feel as an individual, that you're being overworked, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're trying to save people's lives, and now I'm not going to wear a mask, but if I get to that hospital, better have me on a ventilator. That's how I see it, at least.
Yeah, so that's where it's progressively gotten more and more frustrating for me, and it's been stressful. Obviously, been fighting with a lot of people lately, but it's hard for me because I understand where people are coming from when they don't want to believe something that they don't see. They don't want to change their lifestyle. I totally can understand that. But when you have people that you actually know that are physically doing this every day and taking care of these patients and telling you exactly what we're seeing with no bias at all, and people still want to, I don't know, regurgitate whatever they're hearing on the news or the memes on Facebook that they're reading, and all of a sudden it's like scientific information. Like, it's very frustrating for me because
welcome to the mechanic life. That is my life 24/7. I filled it with fuel. Then why is it empty? Why is it empty? It's you got to fill the fucking thing with fuel for the vehicle to work.
I'm not to get angry right now, but it physically affects me, though. It's affecting me personally. It's affecting potentially my family, because I can't avoid it. No matter what, I am exposed to it every single day. I have to watch these people die every day. I have to FaceTime their family members to tell them, like, let them see them and tell them goodbye. Like, it's pretty awful. And these patients are getting younger, so it's affecting different people now, and it's just very frustrating. And I don't even know how to educate people, because people, if they don't want to listen, I don't even know what to say anymore.
You can't fix stupid.
Yeah.
So on that, I want to get into, and Mikey, I mean, you bring up a good point. I mean, you've talked about this before, which is, I saw the reason why Dr. Fauci went back and forth with it, right? Mm-hmm. The fact of the matter why he said not everyone needs masks unless you have COVID-19 was because what happened? Everybody bought masks, and that's what he was trying to prevent. He was trying to prevent the whole purpose of people who need masks need to be able to access them first.
100%.
And actually, and this is only my opinion. No one can judge me on this. Is just my opinion, that I feel a lot of people going outside with the incorrect protective material is what kept this going around even longer and around, because it's people who actually needed the right mask, the right protection to keep them from infecting other people who had it, weren't able to get them, right? They were still producing by putting a sock over their face. So my next question to you, Colbie, if I went upstairs and cut a hole in my socks and put it on my face, by the way, breathable cotton. Let me get that straight for people, because this is just my intelligence. I'm just asking you this because I didn't look this up. Intelligence through me went, cotton is breathable. they're like, well, if it's like if you wear pants and you peed on yourself, that's not what we're talking about. This is fucking airborne. It's not the same thing, you dumb So correct me if I'm wrong, and I have to apologize to those people. If I cut this shirt and went like this and walked around, am I still safe from COVID-19?
Okay, so let me correct you, because the reason why you're wrong in your thinking, and this is what I am trying to explain to a lot of people, you wearing a mask, a cotton mask, to go out is not to protect you. It never was. I don't even know where that came from. You wearing a mask is to protect, if you're at the grocery store, when you talk, from spitting on apples, and then the next little old lady coming by and grabbing an apple and then getting corona and dying.
Correct.
That, obviously, to me, maybe it's because I'm a nurse, that to me seems like, I feel like it's I explain it as easy as I can. However, even though...
But sneezing will still go through your shirt, though. That's the point that I'm making. Like, if I put a shirt over my face and I sneeze, it's still... They did that X-ray thing, right, where they showed you what was the best way. If you went, literally, they did this, right, where if you covered your hands, it was good, but you had germs on your hand. If you went like this with your shirt, it wasn't good because the sneeze still shot and all the particles still went through your shirt. Then they did the arm. So that's where I'm getting my info from, is actually from 5 years ago when they were telling people, stop using your hands, stop using your shirt to sneeze into your arm. That's where, again, I get what you're saying. I'm saying it's my thing. I'm wrong about that. But if I sneeze through this, it will get out and still land on stuff. And is that not correct? Or is that another wrong video that the CDC put out? Because that is a CDC approved video.
TJ, I think what we should tell everybody, and I feel like this is also common sense, don't sneeze into your mask. You should probably have like a tissue, and you should sneeze into the
Wait. People don't know that, by the way. They don't.
Well, that should definitely be, then that's why I'm here. Don't sneeze into your mask. That's disgusting. If you have to sneeze, you need to sneeze into a paper towel or something and throw it away, because then you got your snot all over your face the whole day. Because
that is a big argument. I know, Colbie, you're not looking at media, but I will tell you for a fact, you just opened my eyes. I know you opened up a lot of people's eyes, because I didn't know that. Literally, people are literally talking about that. That's why that's literally the argument, Colbie, is that if you sneeze into your cotton thing, that's going to protect you. And I kept telling people, no, you need the appropriate mask that prevents those particles from getting through. And that's why, again, when we're talking about getting the correct mask, not just cotton mask. So even though I am still wrong, but I'm not, you have to still cover your face. You're still saying that sneezing is still not a plus.
Down and sneeze into a tissue, because yes, a sneeze, I don't know how, that's a lot of pressure. It's going to go
projectile.
Thank you. Yes, it's a projectile. Correct.
When we're talking nonstop, you don't realize the tiny little spit particles that are coming out, though. And that's what it does help protect against. And that's the whole point. It's to protect other people, because, we're young and healthy, and, we don't know if we're carriers or not. So,
well, you and Kyle, not me and Mikey, we're not young and healthy. As I'm drinking rum and Coke.
That's another debate.
Yeah, you got the rum and Coke, and I just got the Coca-Cola.
You got the wrong demographic in front of you.
Right, rotting liver. Here we come.
I gotta keep my liver exercising every day, son. You got the Muhammad Ali of livers over here. No, so by the way, so my next thing on that, again, so obviously I get what you're saying. I did say the wrong thing about protecting myself. I get that. That's not about protecting myself. It's about protecting other people. By the way, I'm one of those grocery ninjas. I go in, I get out. I try to talk to nobody.
Me too.
I'm like hiding through stuff. If someone, especially, by the way, not really young people. If I see a young person, I spit in their face. No, but old people, I literally dodge old people if I'm in the fucking Matrix. Why? It's not because of me. It's because of them. Like my kids, I will see my kid run, he'll be like, hey, even if he's wearing a mask and all fine, there's an old person there, I will tackle my kid. I will Michael Strahan him right to the ground. Because obviously I care about other people. And again, that's my whole thing about the mask. Now, here's my next question. I waited to get the appropriate medical grade mask. Yeah, but I'm still now a little bit shocked because you're telling me even in that mask, if I sneeze, I guess my thing is, okay, what are the correct masks we should be wearing? And if these are the best masks that we have out there in the field, should we be taking extra precautions? And not because I've seen, Colbie, I swear, you go out into the stores nowadays, everyone's wearing masks. And it's just in the mask. It's just like,
so gross.
But I don't have to me, I'm sitting, but this is my thing, Colbie. If they're wearing a cotton mask, I start stepping back. But if they're wearing, one of the, white and the blue mask and stuff like that they have, I'm like, okay, whatever, because I think that should be a high enough grade to prevent the particles from going through. Are they? Are they not? Can you help us? Can you better enlighten me that I can go steal some masks from the doctor's office?
So this is not a scientific answer because I don't have like the research here, but I can tell you that the regular surgical mask that we are required to wear. So when I walk into the hospital, we have to have the regular surgical mask on the entire day. Okay, it's kind of wide open. It's wide open. So
right.
It may be a medical grade. But if I sneezed in that, which by the way, I'm not going to, like if I have allergies, I'm going to carry tissues with me and I'm going to sneeze into that. But it would still come out of the sides. And I'll be honest with you, my mother-in-law lives with us and she makes masks and they like fit my face perfect. And I'm considering doing a trip soon and I'm going to wear my homemade cotton mask because they actually don't even have an opening. So like, that's just my personal thing when I look at it, because I just feel like it would stay inside more, but that's not scientific evidence.
But I heard with the cotton mask that it's okay as long as you have a filter slip. Like you can put a slip of filter in. And again, I'm 100% A-okay with that. But I think at the time, like I said, you have so many people out there like, I'm wearing a mask, and they just put a sock over their face. And they're like, I'm better than you. And it's like,
Well, if I understood, and maybe Colbie could correct me if I'm wrong, even though, I totally get what you're saying with the sock, TJ. I agree that that's a ridiculous mask. But the funny part of it is that if I remember correctly, Dr. Fauci I don't think he was joking. He kind of made it into a joke, but he said that even if you had a sock or whatever bandana-like substance over you, it's still better than nothing at all. So even though
it's like if you didn't have a condom for bed, but you use a plastic bag, it's something.
Mikey, I was just about to say that. Like anything is better than nothing because nothing,
that's the point.
At least if you're covering up part of your spit particles, then there's that much percentage less likely
exactly.
Put it somewhere.
So
you're about to get really lucky, but you guys don't have a condom, so you went to the saran wrap and you pulled it out.
What movie was
I
that?
don't have this problem, you guys.
Only TJ.
Hey, I had to do what I had to do. Cheyenne. It was necessary.
You tell Cheyenne my sympathy is with her.
Well, I got her knocked up. It was fine.
Because all he had left was aluminum foil, and he wasn't going for that.
That's all I had
left. Kyle with the chime in.
I showed up there. I was like, baby, shh. She was like, no.
Is this how we do it?
The doofus in shining for tinfoil.
You ever want to make love to the T-1000? Shh.
You ever have aluminum foil burn?
God.
Okay, moving on.
Why did TJ get fired off the show? Well,
he was mentioning saran wrap as protection for sex.
Talking about protection. Vaccines. Are we close? Are we going to have something? Because, again, my understanding with this whole thing is that this is a stronger, more potent version and a deadlier version than the common cold, right? And, what we have out there. But we don't have a vaccine for the common cold. It's one of those things, if you get it, you got to suffer through and let your immune system kick in and kick its ass. And move on. So how are we going to come up with a vaccine? Or maybe you can inform us, do you see a vaccine in the future? Do you have any information? Are you all taking vaccines because you haven't been sick and you guys are leaving us all to die? Oh, she smiled too long for that. She didn't answer.
She did. That was a long pause.
Yeah, I clicked that. Hammer nail.
Well, the reason why I made that face is because in general, working in the hospital, we have to get the flu vaccine every year. They force us. The funny thing is, though, is that we're always forced to take it. And if we don't, they tell us we have to wear a mask the whole flu season. But now I feel like from here on out, that's going to be the case no matter what anyway. But for sure, if there's a vaccine, I don't know anything going on with the vaccine. I know that the plan would be for a vaccine. I know that there's concern that it's evolving and changing like the flu does.
Right.
But it's very much different than the common cold. The common cold doesn't kill people all the time. So this is something, that's why you don't really need a vaccine for the common cold. But this, in order for us to get back to normal life, we would want a vaccine. And I can guarantee you that as a healthcare worker, they're going to make us all get them no matter what, just to be working around people, I'm sure. So, but I don't know when or anything about the research there.
So on that, by the way, because obviously we really know how viruses affect us, how dangerous they are, how deadly they are. And we have seasons, right, where we have flu seasons and all that stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong. What is flu season, right? Where does the clock start for flu season and when does it end?
October through March.
October through March. The biggest thing I think, again, a lot of big people have been concerned with is that the clock doesn't seem to have stopped on COVID, even though it has still felt, where it started in October and then it still has gone through and now still hasn't stopped. Should it have stopped? Should we put a timer on it? The same thing we do with the flu, or should we account for all of these deaths as one cycle, even though it could be lead into another cycle, just like the flu?
So I think what the scariest thing is, even for me, is that, the flu happened over 100 years ago, right? So we got all that research and experience to know, and that's where probably that came from. And I know in the beginning when people were comparing this to the flu and, saying, oh, the flu only killed this many people. But now here we are. You're right. It's been more than that, or at least 6 months now, right? And the numbers are higher than ever. So it's looking like it might not.
Well, the numbers actually by deaths are lower.
So, well, yes. And I don't know.
I can give a look, but it is lower. The number did drop dramatically. There's a lot more people. There's a lot more cases, but the death rate actually dropped.
So as far as I've seen, it's depending where you're looking. So in states like New York, where they had been hit a lot harder,
have dropped dramatically.
They've dropped dramatically. You're absolutely right. But in places like Arizona, it's spiking. It's going higher. If I don't have the
and
stats,
you're right,
but
Mikey.
I believe
I'm not going to argue with that. I think I'm talking about the global perspective of everything around the world has dropped. But you're right. Places like Arizona that wasn't hit hard from the beginning are getting hit harder now than they were in the beginning. I'm not going to argue with that.
And the reason that is, and at least in my opinion, and I don't know if there is a stat on this, in my opinion, it's because, well, let's face it, New York was hit hard. People out here didn't experience it like New York did. Me and you probably both have, well, I know I have family members that got it, TJ. I don't know about you. But I mean, to me, when with this, it's way more serious than the flu. I mean, it's 4.63% of the people worldwide are dying from this. I mean, that's an actual fact. I mean, people who are getting tests come out, it was 9% positive for people who are getting tests. And in reality, from the stats that I found from the CDC, only about 10% or 20% of the United States population has been tested. Now, as we open up testing and stuff, in Arizona at least, we're finding 1 in 4 people in Arizona are testing positive. These places are essentially following leadership where you're seeing spikes where they're refusing to shut down and get the curve back to where it needs to be, like where New York was. So, depending where you're looking, yeah, you're right, and I know you're confirming that, but I just cringe when I hear that people are saying, "Oh, it's going away." No, it's not going away. It's still here. And the scary part of this is that I think people are missing is the way that this spreads. The denser area that you're in, the more it's going to spread. It spread like a wildfire in Italy. I mean, in New York. Well, in Italy too.
In Italy too, yeah.
Yeah, in Italy too.
So give me a quick sec to hop in there. And I definitely agree with you with hot spots too. But I think what you also got to see is the other side is that you're right. There's not a lot of people who are tested. But this is one of the things that Dr. Fauci said, a lot of medical people said, which was most of everybody's already been exposed. This has already gone through. And when testing becomes available, we're going to see numbers spike of how many people actually have it. And exactly like that happened. The greatest thing is that the number of deaths or the mortality rate, right, has continuously dropped for globally the more people who get tested. Now, this is what the scariest thing is. It seems everyone's fucking getting it. No one's ever experienced a virus like this because it seems like every single person is going to get it. This is a virus that's going to affect every single person. But the more people that have been exposed and more people who have gone back to work and stuff like that, this is where I told you the death rate has dropped. Even though the confirmed cases have gone up, the mortality rate is starting to drop because we're starting to notice by people getting tested that, oh, you have it or you have the antibodies, right? Oh, you have it and it hasn't really affected you. The mortality rate is death, so that number keeps growing and growing and growing. My fear is that this is a very scary virus because it seems to just be unstoppable. It just seems like everyone's going to get it. The death rate, though, and the percentages, again, I think that's where people argue because the more people who haven't, more people are being like, I've had it and I've been fine. What's the big deal here? And then that death rate continues to seem to be dropping because more people who get tested seem to have it. They're just not dying from it. So that's dropping the mortality rate. And I think that's what a lot of people are seeing. And I'm just explaining that, Mikey. I'm not trying to defend it. I'm not trying to argue it. I'm just trying to state why people think a certain way.
And you know what? On a global scale, I have no doubt that you're right. I mean, I have no doubt that you're right. But where I see the mortality rate in places like Arizona going up, well, to me, there's less, let's put it this way. In reality, right now, the United States is the only one out and partying right now, at least from what I see. I don't see people in Italy out and partying or anything like that. They're actually still kind of...
They all died.
Yeah, well, no.
I'm joking. That's messed up. I'm sorry, people. I'm sorry. It's a bad joke. I had to take it, though.
So here's the thing is the scariness is like, people are saying, oh, we're all going to get it. But like Colbie said in the beginning, maybe we are all going to get it, but the objective is essentially for people like me who have a pre-existing condition that if we get it, we're not going to be possibly in that recovery rate. We're going to be in the death rate. Don't know until we get it. It does absolutely suck.
But that curve, and that's what sucks about this is that I hate hearing that the medical beds are all being that kills me, Mikey, because I do think of you. I mean, you're a dear friend of mine, and every time I hear that and hearing that from Colbie, I mean, that just kills me, man.
Well, and I know that you share that, and the thing is, as far as with me, seeing people go out, and I have a little thing for the people going out towards the end of the show, if you guys will allow me to. I kind of want to give a little words of wisdom to the people. To the people that are going out and about and not caring about others. But I'm going to save that for the end of the show. But at the end of the day, it's just really where you're looking. I don't really think the death rate is dropping, in my opinion. The reason that we're seeing it drop is because other countries are still doing what they need to do. And the United States seems like they're the only ones lacking. I mean, Canada, Canada, you did it. I did it. Canada. Canada's president or prime minister, whatever they got up there, he was invited to the White House with the Mexican president to shake hands and show face about the new trade deal that they got between the United States, Mexico, and Canada. The Prime Minister of Canada says, "There's no way we're going to the United States. You guys are infected. I'm not going to bring that back to my country." Then you got the president from Mexico. He's on his way there right now. So if Trump or someone in his cabinet
and you drink Mexican water, they can handle anything, dude.
You know what? It's funny. As I was saying that, I was actually thinking that. I'm like, well, what? There's probably coronavirus in that water. But
like, dude, like we started this, we just blamed it on China. What are you talking about?
But he's on his way to go and shake hands with the president and be out and about in the hot spot. To me, that's like asking for trouble, in my opinion. And to me, it's responsible, I think, of Canada's prime minister to stay away and say, no, I'm going to protect my people and my constituents in my cabinet from getting this virus in case if anybody in your office has it.
Well, I get that to a certain point, Mikey. To the other point is that, do we think that obviously that's happening in the White House with the presidency and stuff like that? I think they're probably taking better care of the whole situation than the rest of us. So that's where the only thing where I probably would, be like, all right, you're going to a place that's probably doing better than all of us. I mean, there's probably sitting there Lysol. And we all know, by the way, that Donald Trump has that Lysol right there where he's just killing that corona right there.
He's pumping it up the rear.
Yeah, the Lysol and bleach. He's got the 1-2 hit. Nah, just joking, everybody. I get the whole thing. I'm just busting balls. We can laugh at each other, okay? Before everyone gets mad. He didn't mean it like that. I get it, guys. We're just fucking around and joking. But the next thing I want to talk to, and I want to direct this again to Colbie, which is obviously you're in this field, and I just want to get your feeling on something that we're all talking about a lot, right? Which is getting back to normal, getting our lives together. And let me rephrase again, back to normal, right? There's a new normal out there. I was one of those big people in the beginning. I was like, dude, whatever the F we have to do. If I got to wear a mask, I got to live in a bubble, but go outside and we can still produce and still live our lives. Because my biggest fear, and I've seen you right now, you're telling me you're extremely busy, but I saw posts from you before telling me, how little you were working and how slow things were. I have a friend who's a nurse too, that's literally right beside me. They were slow. They were hurting. They were, not being able to provide. And that brought up another thing. Like, we're all talking about the economy. And actually, I think a lot of what's going on today with, no one working and no one can afford their bills. And you go to the grocery store and there's one ground beef there and 20 people are fighting over one ground beef. And now, you look at New York, look at Chicago, shootings are increasing. We're having a lot of issues. To my eyes, there's a lot of give and take to this, right? The longer you keep the economy closed, the more that violence is going to grow, the more that people like yourself, nurses, doctors, hospitals are going to go out of business. And then when we open back up, we're not going to have food. We're not going to have resources. We're not going to have doctors. That when we do get sick, then when the curve starts climbing up, we're not going to have people take care of us. So kind of my viewpoint on this that's my viewpoint on it, which is we need a blend. We need to work together to get to that point. But on the opposite end, how Mikey's like, oh, people who, that are going out there saying COVID's not real. But well, you got the other end, which are people who don't want to leave the house. They want to keep this country shut down. No one move out, that we have to stay inside to protect everybody else. But in the long run, do you see that causing problems? Did you run into that issue where you felt like, the healthcare industry was getting too slow and you weren't able to work? What's your kind of viewpoint on opening the economy?
So that's a big question there. So part of it, the first thing is, I don't know which post you're referring to, but when this first started happening, I've told you guys before, I'm one of the first nurses that will take a volunteer day off. Okay. So, and because the thing is I'm in the ICU. So I don't know what your nurse friend did or what anybody else's nurse friends do, but maybe they work in a part of the hospital that is not taking care of critical patients. Like where I'm at, it's very specialized, and nursing is like a million different things that you can do with nursing.
That's very true.
So
Correct.
all of those other nurses that do all of those other things that have nothing to do with critical care and having someone on a ventilator and, physically keeping them alive, they don't have work right now. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah, but that's not like a shot on these people. I mean, everything else is still very important. Like, I don't want to get too personal with some stuff, but let's just say, and I keep everything to the chest, but the only way I can really say is that my uncle passed away, right? And he couldn't get his treatment, and that's why he passed away. Right. So, like, I understand everyone else is worried about COVID-19 lives. Where does everybody else's lives fall into this, right? It's just like, was my uncle's life not as important as the next person because it wasn't a COVID-19 death? Like, that's kind of, and I kind of threw that in there, and I don't know, again, so all these other nurses are still kind of important too, right?
Well, that's not at all what I was saying. I was saying that that's why they maybe didn't have work, because they've stopped doing elective procedures and all of the extra things that aren't emergent things. Mm-hmm. And so, now it's kind of the opposite, because now obviously they're like begging for us to come work every day. You know what I mean? So, because they just don't have enough critical care nurses. In fact, we have all the nurses from other departments coming to help us, and they don't know how to fully take care of these patients, but they're coming and helping us do the things that they know how to do just to help lighten the load. So
you said you even learned a lot, right? Recently?
So yes, there's a lot you can do in critical care, and I still had a lot of things that I didn't know how to do. I still do, by the way, but now my patients, where in our ICU on a normal basis, we would have 1 or 2 that are this sick. Now we have like 20 to 30 that are that sick. So we've all been kind of forced to learn everything very, very quickly that we weren't actually trained on. So.
Wow.
No. So again, going back to the question. So do you feel like we should still be staying at home and staying out of the economy and staying away from these issues? And I kind of, and I know this is going to be hard to explain, but I guess a little bit of, because I know, like what you said, the past month there's been a big increase. Again, I very much contribute that to the protesting. Correct me if I'm wrong. Arizona opened up in.
You guys, your daughter's in here. I'm sorry.
Hey, say hi. Hey, hop on the camera.
Hey, God, there's a princess.
It's very sweaty.
Oh my God, what have you been doing?
Finish, okay?
Have you been working out? Does mommy have you cleaning up the house?
Okay, can you go though? I'll be done in just a few minutes.
She's not doing anything important. She's lying to you. This is what parents do.
All right, let me get her out really quick. You guys talk for a second.
No, don't take her away.
Our ratings are dropping.
If we all stay really quiet, we're about to hear child abuse. I said get the out of my...
You're ruining mommy's big moment.
I'm going to be a star. I've been waiting for this. Actually, while she beats her kids, I'm getting another drink. Colbie's back already? That was a quick beating. Was it? You got the one hand slap down.
It's a 2-story house. You just threw her back down the stairs.
Kids bounce back. That's exactly what she said. They bounce back.
She won't remember this in like 3 years.
She won't remember it in 5 minutes. It'll be fine.
Good to know.
Once a concussion phase, you usually don't know what happened.
So, let me lock this door before we get back serious.